Hello there. An MP is apparently stepping down because of threats from a certain demographic. Welcome to Britain. I take no pleasure in this, but I feel I have to point out the obvious. It may sound heartless and controversial, but I can't accept the shallow reasoning behind the decision of Tory MP and Minister Mike Freer to stand down at the next election. I accept that he's been targeted. I accept he's had death threats. I accept he's been the target of arson, and I accept his office staff and family have been targeted too. I accept all of that. I do not dispute it, and I believe it is 100% true. But this type of targeting has come about as a direct result of the policies pursued by successive Westminster uniparty establishment politicians over past decades. And Mike Freer has been a part of that uniparty establishment since 2010. That's over a decade. These politicians have all been party to quietly opening the borders and encouraging people to come here by fair means or foul. They may not have actively done so, but it has come about by their involvement as a politician or minister within a system that has. A system that has either made it too easy or has ignored the dangers of so doing. They are also the ones that have constructed this cloying atmosphere of free speech denying powers. Powers that force people to keep their mouths shut when their common sense tells them they should be calling out. The anti-free speech powers that actually demands that people feel forced to say things in public that they fundamentally disagree with. The anti-free speech powers that have stifled debate. Debate that could have helped us dodge all this by forcing a proper debate on immigration, for example, without all the flinging of insults about xenophobia, etc. A debate that could have helped us understand and identify the real bad actors out there. A debate that might have prevented the grooming scandal and not made one security guard keep his fears to himself for fear of being branded a racist of what turned out to be a lethal terrorist bomber. A debate that, if held early, openly and robustly, could have stopped a teacher being in protective custody for over 2 years for showing a cartoon of a certain figure from history. Those politicians are the ones that have put the happiness and inclusion of the non-assimilators out there above the needs and concerns of their voters. But it also now puts the happiness and inclusion of the non-assimilators above the safety and well-being of MPs too. That's now all too apparent. Now, I've never met Mike Freer, but as far as I know, he is a thoroughly decent and honourable person. And I'm not holding him personally responsible for all of the nation's woes. All I'm saying is that he is an active part of an establishment that has continually rubbed our noses in diversity. All that only started under Tony Blair. It actually got worse since 2010, first under the coalition and then under the Tories. And right now legal net migration is running at circa 750,000 every year. An unimaginable figure even a decade ago. And had free speech not been stifled, I doubt that figure would be anywhere near that high. But because it is stifled, the latest ONS figures indicate that a population the size of Scotland will be added to the UK by 2036. So in your estimation, dear viewer, is the situation I outlined above destined to get better or worse? I'll leave that for you to decide. And as the threat increases, our political response will no doubt be to put more protection in place for the powers that be. More police officers outside Parliament and Downing Street, more personal protection for MPs and lords and judges, more money for MI5 to monitor the baddies, etc. But while not looking at the real root of the problem and stopping so many people coming so quickly into the UK. You see, the threat the politicians are now facing is not an external threat. It is a threat of their own making. They are the ones putting these jigsaw pieces in place. Now, yes, I know some politicians will have received similar threats from the far right. But if you can't work out that this all stems from the same internal divisions, then you need help. And with these divisions, we've ended up with the UK currently having some 43,000 individuals on the terror watch list. Wonder how much larger that will get. Now, it is abhorrent that our politicians, their staff and their partners have to wear stab vests and fear going out in public. But how do you think ordinary people feel when walking about in London, for example, these days? Knife crime up, shoplifting up, anti-Semitism up. The danger for all of us is increasing, due to the policy decisions of our politicians. So I find it disappointing when a politician decides to resign but doesn't acknowledge that they helped stoke the ardour that made the kitchen too hot for them. Now, let's have a chat about wages being too high, shall we? Richard.
According to the Daily Telegraph, the Governor of the Bank of England, Andrew Bailey, has said that wages are still too high. And I think that should tell you everything you need to know about the establishment and how it views you, the great unwashed. If Andrew Bailey really does think wages are still too high, then maybe he should take a pay cut. Oh wait, that'll never happen. Or maybe he should be recommending that the top high earners in the country should take a pay cut. No, that won't happen either, because only some people should take a pay cut, namely us, the silent majority, the silent acquiescent majority. If you want to know who the farmers and lorry drivers and taxi drivers across Europe are protesting against, it's the establishment. I suppose you could say people like Andrew Bailey, but that would be a bit unfair to single him out. People, though, who I'm talking about now, who don't think in terms of human cost. The human cost of unimportant things like having a wage that meets the cost of living in a cost of living crisis. You see, it hasn't gone away. The cost of living crisis is still very much here, and more people are struggling to make ends meet. And they're finding it difficult to put a roof over their heads and feed their families and to keep their families warm. The food banks haven't gone away. There is more demand for them now than ever. And I wonder when the last time was that Mr. Bailey visited a food bank. I mean, if he went to one, I'm sure he would be surrounded with people complaining about how high their wages are. And, they should be, these people, they'd all be surrounding Andrew Bailey and saying, Andrew, please help us get a pay cut, will you? The Bank of England is there to serve one purpose and one purpose alone. And that is to ensure that you remain on your knees whilst the great and the good bathe in milk. I am reading more and more commentators talking about how the entire system of Western civilization is rotten to the core, and how we should not be harking back to days yonder and romanticising them, because it's always been rotten and corrupt to the core. It's only just that we're starting to realise it. So now we need a root and branch clear out of the system. And we have to ask ourselves if we wish to replace the system with another system. Or do we just get on with life ourselves, governing our own borders and applying direct democracy to all things appertaining to the function of society in a community context? As Jeff said in his last video, England is dead. And no, that isn't a hyperbolic or inflammatory statement. I'm afraid it is a fact, because England no longer stands for anything. Even the capital of this nation has fallen, and its fallen-ness is representative of the fall of England and Britain. Yet, there is hope for England. And I am singling out England here because it is the one nation out of all of the Union that I fear for the most. but I am afraid that England and Britain's hope will not come from the ballot box. Yes, I will be voting reform, but I do so with very little hope in it achieving anything. And no, I don't agree with everything they have come out with over the past couple of years, especially over a certain mandate. I have more faith in our farmers than I do in the ballot box. So I believe real change and England's hope will emerge from something, let's say, a little more bracing. But there we go. And I won't be encouraging any of that, will I? Oh, most certainly not. Anyway, what do you Peters and Penelopes think about what has been said in this video? Leave your inspired brilliances in the comment section below for Mr. Taylor and I to read. And get yourselves over to our Locals channel for extra content. Link in the descriptions box below on how to do that. And God bless each and every one of you. And bye for now.